Chapter 1716 Mechanical Modifications. Lu Karen sat Uncle Yu on a chair and poured him a cup of water. "Uncle Yu, if there's anything I can help you with, just ask." Lu Karen looked at Uncle Yu and said. Uncle Yu slowly raised his head. The emotions in his eyes were very complicated. After thinking for a long time, he opened his mouth. "Ms. Lu, I feel that I am too weak now. It's already dragging everyone down." Lu Karen hastily waved her hand. "No, no, no, Uncle Yu, how can you say such words?" Uncle Yu reached out to stop Lu Karen from persuading him. "There's no need to comfort me. I'm at this age, and I'm not a small child who needs to be comforted. I'm very clear about my own lack of ability." Lu Karen didn't know what to say for a moment. In good conscience, for their team, the gap between their talents was indeed too huge. Compared to Zhang Yi, they were all ordinary people and could even be said to be very novice. However, among them, Uncle Yu and Fatty Su's talents again seemed to be the most chicken-hearted. Lu Karen and Yang Xinxin, as well as Zhou Qi and Yang Xia, although they couldn't directly participate in the battle, there would always be room to utilize their auxiliary type abilities. On the contrary, Uncle Yu and Fatty Su both had combat type abilities, yet they were unable to provide Zhang Yi with help in the middle of a battle. This was very awkward. "Brother Zhang Yi, he won't care about this. After all, we are family now, aren't we?" Lu Karen continued to comfort. Uncle Yu smiled. "Yes, Zhang Yi, he is a good person. He hasn't disliked us, but can I be content to let him provide for me?" He looked at Lu Karen with a burning gaze, and inside his eyes were flames burning unwillingly. "I'm already 49 years old, and I haven't had any great accomplishments in my life. The most scenic time was the time when I followed Zhang Yi. However, I don't feel old yet. I even feel like I'm still young and still able to shine." He clenched his fists, making a sound as he exerted himself too hard. "I'd rather use my limited life to do something meaningful. Nor do I wish to live in vain until I die of old age in a hospital bed. So, Ms. Lu, I hope you can help me." After Lu Karen heard this, she was also impressed by the vigor in Uncle Yu's words. She took a deep breath. "All right, I understand. Afterwards, I will upgrade your battle armor, and in addition, in terms of weapons, I will also properly customize them for you." "No, just these aren't enough." Uncle Yu raised his own hands and looked at his rough and powerful arms and palms. "The limitations of the mecha are too great. The exoskeleton armor only enhances the combat power, but does not allow for a qualitative breakthrough. When really fighting, it's still more realistic to use one's own body." Lu Karen suddenly frowned as she vaguely guessed what Uncle Yu was planning to do. "Uncle Yu, Uncle Yu continued, "I've heard that Cartilus from Columbia's Navy was the one who transformed his body to gain great power, right?" He looked at Lu Karen, his gaze incomparably firm. "Ms. Lu, you are a mechanical genius. You must be able to do the same, right?" Lu Karen's eyes became serious. She was able to feel Uncle Yu's determination amongst his gaze, but this kind of thing was no joke. Once the transformation began, it would eventually lead to an irreversible process. Even at the end of the day, the body would not know how much of it still belonged to them, and even completely turn into a machine. In this era, it is true that there is already the concept of cyborgs, but that was used on soldiers who were disabled because of the war. After the end of the world had changed, and one could do anything to get power. The transformation of ordinary people, with drugs, with machinery, with all kinds of horrible supernatural, all have. But Lu Karen was not a heartless evil scientist after all. It was hard for her to do it to her own people. "Uncle Yu, do you know what it means to do this? There is a possibility that after the transformation, you will slowly lose your humanity." Uncle Yu hemmed and hawed. "I have had this realization in my heart. And I have no intention of completely mechanizing my body. My talent is limited. Even if Zhang Yi gives me tons of resources, it won't allow me to become a first-class powerhouse. But I believe in the power of technology. When humans face the terrifying Wuluan Empire mutants, can't they also fight through the Reaper of Love? So, if my ability is not enough, using technology to make up for it is. Uncle Yu stood up, and on his face was a determination that defied death. Ms. Lu, let me be your test subject. Think of me as a weapon template and utilize your destructive talents at will. Modify it however strong you want. Lu Karen hesitated, but, will Brother and Auntie Zhou agree? Uncle Yu smiled brightly, revealing a mouth full of large white teeth, and extended his thumb to point at himself. How I use my body, this power to make decisions I still have. Lu Karen's eyes had a touch of worry within them, but her heart, however, was beating extremely fast due to an unspeakable excitement. She was a genius in the field of mechanics, and biomechanical science was also a field she had always longed to study. The development of the sword in the tree also fell under this classification. However, who could refuse to use a real human being as a test subject to create a super bioweapon? She slowly raised her head and looked at Uncle Yu's burly, bear-like body. In her eyes, at this moment, Uncle Yu was no longer a mere human body. Rather, he was a huge biological experiment, and she had even begun to conceptualize just how she should add those crazy war aesthetic ideas of hers inside his body. If you want more power, be prepared to be inhuman. I'll remodel your bones with the toughest E-metal, inject nanobots into your veins, make many holes in your body, and even use your veins as conduits for firing ammunition and energy cannons. Even theoretically, your heart could be replaced with an artificial blood pump, and your skin could be made of a different material. Your brain could all be replaced with a supercomputer. But that would become extremely painful, and there is no way for me to restore you to your original state once the experiment begins. Even so, Uncle Yu, do you still choose to transform? Uncle Yu's eyes were resolute as he slowly nodded. Some people had died long ago, they were just buried a little late. He didn't want to live a meaningless life, he didn't want his life to pass as if it was a Sunday afternoon. He didn't want his future years to only be able to silently watch from behind while Zhang Yi and the others fought. That would be endless torment for him. I'm counting on you for everything. Ms. Lu,